It has been a week since Charlotte police shot and killed Keith Scott, and today we're learning more about Mr. Scott. Last year, his wife asked a court for a protective order against him, saying he had a gun and he threatened to kill her. She also said he had hit her and one of their children. His shooting, of course, sparked massive riots in Charlotte. It's also generated a lot of questions as well as a healthy amount of controversy. Police finally released the dashcam video after days of people calling for its release. But the video did not clearly show whether or not Scott had a gun. Clearly on the audio, you hear the police say he did, repeatedly asking him to drop the gun. They even released a picture of the gun they say he was holding. Scott's family, however, insists he was not armed. We also heard his wife in her cell phone video at the scene saying he doesn't have a gun, he doesn't have a gun. We all know race is certainly a factor in encounters with police. But whether it is a determining factor or where is the line, more importantly, that justifies police shooting? What if the suspect is armed and didn't listen to police requests to drop the weapon? Let's bring in the panel right now. Now again, let's stipulate so we can save the time. Yes, the color of one's skin matters. Every single piece of data says it. Not for every officer out there. I'm sure some are completely colorblind, but it can be, and it is a mitigating factor. So let's not live in Never Never Land. However, just as we're seeing people killed and it turns out they're unarmed, we're seeing also incidents of Dallas and other datelines in this country where cops don't go home at night. It is what it is out there. We have hundreds of millions of guns that are out in the marketplace. The officers clearly, maybe they were wrong, although we see the gun on the street, and I'll get to that in a second, said, drop the gun, drop the gun. He didn't get on the ground, and he kept approaching the police. Is that enough rationale? Not that it was a good shoot or a bad shoot. If they ask a person to drop the gun and he continues to advance towards them, and they believe he has a gun because they're asking him to drop it, is that enough of a rationale that the cops can fire their weapon?
Well, I think it's fact specific. It depends on, number one, where is the gun? Is the gun in his hand? What is he doing with the gun?
But if he has a gun on him and he's not even raising it at the police, but he keeps advancing. I know in TV shows they shoot the gun out of the hand. That's not the real world.
No, it's not the real world.
We have adrenaline pumping through people's heads.
It's not the real world. I think you have to look at it. Too many people approach these cases with an agenda, where you want one side to be right or one side to be wrong, instead of trying to find out what actually happened. Now, it would have gone a long way if again, the city of Charlotte had taken the videos and released them. Should be transparency. Your state governor and your state government should not be passing laws prohibiting the release of dashcam video. That's something that you should want to share. And if there's something that's wrong, either it's a mistake or criminality on the part of police, then the city should act on that. If it's not, it exonerates the police.
But here's the tougher question, Mayo. The police released the video. They also released the photos of the gun. They say that they have forensic evidence that has the DNA of Mr. Scott on the gun. They have Mr. Scott's blood on the gun. All the rest. For people to question the authenticity that, oh, they're lying. If we can't even have faith in the forensic labs, let alone law enforcement and all the rest, then how can we have any justice system? Don't you have to suspend certain amounts of doubt, or do we believe there's conspiracies for everything?
Richard, very recently there was a situation where the police took a camera from a person and didn't realize that camera was still recording, and then they proceeded to talk about how they were going to frame that person. So as long as we maintain officers like that, you're going to always have that doubt. And as long as we hesitate in giving these dash cam videos and other videos and don't require officers to wear the body camera, you're going to have that doubt.
Right, but beyond that, but here's my question, Mayo. It's not whether or not there are wrongs. I believe there are. But my question is, if we can't even believe when they produce a report that his blood and his DNA is on the gun, and we're going to tell the public who's already rioted twice, don't believe the hype or the facts that the police are giving us, then how can anyone have any faith at all in the criminal justice system?
Here's the other issue, is that our crime labs have routinely lied to the people. In fact, the FBI used to certify and testify in court that you could match a particular cartridge to a box of cartridges, knowing all along that was a lie.
Let me get you guys in. I think the consequence of what he's saying, and you know, if I'm in trouble, I'm going to Mayo, but my point is, that's scary if we can't even trust the cops enough when they release a report.
The climate over the last few years, with the spate of exonerations finally the exposure of a certain level of corruption that has caused people to spend half a lifetime in jail.
No,
but the
here's my
answer
point.
to your question,
How they were exonerated, though, was DNA came out and it proved they got the wrong guy. They claim the DNA is his on the gun.
I'm with you. I'm saying the climate has caused this automatic doubt and this lack of just being able to sit back and say, let's look at it on a case-by-case basis. The simple answer to your question is, if in fact this fella had a gun, which was visible to the police, and he was refusing to back off and continuing to act in a threatening manner, if those facts are established, and I agree with you, they seem to be, then it's in all likelihood, a justified shooting. The problem is the climate is just not allowing people to apply that level of common sense. So you've got these riots, and you've got this looting, and you've got these fires, and you've got all of this without anybody bothering to say what happened here.
So Doug, as a non-attorney, I sit here, and we've had a lot of cases where I can't believe cops at different places have gotten away with some of these shootings, okay? So for me, I think as a society, we're better served if the cops don't always get the benefit of the doubt. But I'll turn around and I'll say there was another shooting that happened recently. A mentally ill man was going like this with the cops, okay, after he was called to please respond here. The guy's running through the streets, through traffic unwilling. How are we expecting police to know now who's mentally ill, who's not, who's on drugs, who's not?
Rich.
And then later we do, in the calm of night around a table, right, in an air-conditioned studio, we sit and then pontificate who doesn't. They're not going to start showing up to the bad places. We know how the real world works. I know them over time.
But luckily, Rich, this isn't where it's decided. Juries are very, very smart. You knock off people with bias. Juries listen to the whole case. They listen to all the facts. And usually juries get things right that maybe a prosecutor's office
And Doug,
gets
the
wrong.
jury gives the defendant the benefit of the doubt, not the police. So we're flipping it upside down. We already start out giving the benefit of the doubt to law enforcement against the accused.
I got to hit it. This is an impossible transition, so forgive me. Coming up next, an error at Yankee Stadium, but it happens in the stands, not on the field. We're going to tell you about the botched proposal that wound up with a happy ending and no lawsuit. Stay with us.